like every practice, emptiness practice has two parts. There is what's called space-like emptiness practice, and that's talking about the meditation. Meaning that when we're searching, regardless of what we're searching for, whether we're searching for the me, the body, the mind, or whatever, if we're searching and we don't find, that not finding is a space-like experience. It's an absence. Space is like an absence of contact, an absence of obstruction. So it's a space-like experience. So that's why the meditation practice is often referred to as space-like emptiness. And then we have the illusory-like emptiness practice, and that's referring to what we are to do during daily life. That, as we saw yesterday evening in the short-term strategy, to question appearances. That things really seem to exist there independently, but is that how they exist? Particularly based on our understanding and experience of emptiness meditation, we can really start to question appearances. And that will have two benefits at least. One, of course, is that by questioning appearances and coming to see that things are not existing as they appear, that can reduce the grasping onto them, which means that it will reduce the mental afflictions that may arise through reacting to appearances. And secondly, of course, that will deepen our understanding of dependent arising, which is the flip side of emptiness, which then will feed back into the emptiness practice. So they'll support each other. So that's what I'd like to do now, is a short illusory-like emptiness practice of questioning appearances. And then we'll go to this evening's topic. So let's do that practice first.
Can you just explain the dependent arising? How is it the other side of
emptiness? Yeah. Because emptiness is that things are not independently existent. So if they're not independently existent, they're dependently existent. So that's the flip side. Not independent implies dependent. So they're talking about the same thing, but from two perspectives. This cup, we can say, is empty of independent existence. So that's emptiness way of talking about the cup. The cup lacks independent existence. Or we can talk about the cup exists depending on causes, conditions, parts, and labelling. So we're still talking about the cup. And it's the same cup. The cup that is empty of independent existence is the same cup that is a dependent arising, that's merely labelled, exists through causes and conditions and parts. So one is talking about reality through negation. Emptiness is a negation. They're not like that. And dependent arising is affirmation, that things exist through causes and conditions, parts and labelling. But it's the same. That's why they're two sides of the coin. They're just two perspectives of the same thing. And it's said that in terms of realization, to come to realize, actually what comes first is emptiness. That it's through the experience and realization of emptiness, from that then we really come to realise that things are dependent horizons, merely labelled. So that's the order in which we have those realisations, because we approach the nature of reality through the emptiness door, and then from that we come to see that everything is merely labelled.
And after the meditation, we did the last meditation, can we say that the me is empty of inherent existence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The assertion, of course, here is that everything is empty of inherent existence. Therefore, they exist depending on cause and conditions, parts, and exists through conception, through labelling. Yeah, it's the same assertion for all phenomena.
Can you please repeat? I asked before, but on the first stage, and how to feel the me, because I feel like I don't really I'm not past the first stage. I don't quite understand this one.
Yeah, and that's why, as a beginner, it's often said that we need to think of some sort of situation where we have a strong sense of me. Because if we, as a beginner, if we sit down, we relax the body, relax the mind, because we're not so familiar, and then the strong sense of me subsides, we sort of go, okay, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Because we're not familiar and it's not strong. So therefore it's recommended, and we did that one earlier, imagine you being praised. And just rest in that experience of the me that's being praised.
But then when we did that practice, I felt like the me that's being praised, I imagined like my qualities that...
Yeah, but not so we're imagining, see where...
Not, the feeling, I had a good feeling when I got praised, and then I felt like I have like this kind of qualities, that's why I got praised.
Right, but then rest in the me who has those qualities, not the qualities. It's the me we're interested in.
So just to feel good about myself?
No, not to feel good, but just when someone's praising you, you have this experience, I am being praised. This I. Just rest in that experience. Don't think about it. Don't think, why are they praising me? Oh, they're praising me because of my qualities. We're not interested in that here. We're just interested in the experience of me, I. And just stay with that. And as I mentioned before, sometimes you'll see, particularly the teacher will say to a student, just do that the whole session. Do that for the next 3 weeks, every day. Just sit there and bring up a situation where maybe you're being praised or criticised or something that evokes a strong sense of me, and just rest in that for the whole session and just get very familiar with it. Just keep doing it. And then when we're very familiar with it, then we have, it's like a clear picture. Like if I asked you to look for a particular person in the room and I had a picture and I flashed it to you for 2 seconds, you'd go, oh, hang on, I didn't get a good look at that. But if I hold it there and you keep looking at it more and more and more, you'll get more familiar with that. But if I just give you a quick look, then you go, maybe that was them. I didn't get a clear picture. So that's just do that. Just get a clear picture of that me that seems to be here.
I don't think.
But it's not an intellectual thing. It's just completely experiential.
What do you mean by familiar?
Familiar.
How do I get familiar with that?
Yeah, but we then when it goes, we sort of forget it, don't we? Like if I were to show you this picture now for 5 seconds and you looked at it, and then an hour later I asked you, can you describe what you saw an hour ago? You go, I think it was a guy and he sort of had darkish hair. That would be gone. You'd lose that, wouldn't you? So, but if you kept looking at this, studying this all day long, and then the next day I asked you, you'd be able to give a very good description.
But it's not a picture.
No, but this is just an analogy.
Yeah, I know that this is just that I understood, but so what I'm asking is how can I be familiar with the me if it's not something that I can see?
It's there all the time.
No, I know that it's there, but
Well, we're not looking for it, remember? I'm not asking you to look for the person in the room yet. We're just becoming familiar with that experience. So all we're doing is, again, just imagine someone's praising us and just rest there in that experience, me.
so it's kind of a shamatha.
Yeah, it's a shamatha on me. Yes, exactly. Shamatha. Do shamatha on me.
Okay.
Don't try and figure out anything. When I'm asking you to look at the picture, you're not trying to figure out where they're from, what nationality, how old they are. That's irrelevant. You just want to be familiar with the face. So similarly, we just want to be familiar with me, the me that we are holding on to. Okay, let's do the practice. Actually, we need the lights. We need the lights for this meditation, for the illusory light, otherwise it's difficult. Preparing the body. Allowing it to become completely relaxed. Breathing flowing naturally and effortlessly. Not dwelling in the past, not anticipating the future. In particular, letting go of any expectations for this practice. Letting go of all of these things. And simply allow the mind to come to rest in the present moment. Simply becoming aware of the sensations of the breath. practice now illusory-like emptiness, of questioning appearances. So open your eyes and bring your attention to an object in front of you. How does this object appear to exist to you? Does it seem to exist there from its own side, objectively? Now investigate. Is that how it actually exists? Existing there from its own side? Look closely. Or is it something simply created and labelled by the conceptual mind? And also observe some of the qualities or characteristics of that object. Do they seem to exist there objectively? Is that how they exist? These qualities or characteristics? Or are these also something merely labelled by the conceptual mind? Look closely. Apply the same process to other objects in front of you. Now pick a word on the whiteboard here. How does it appear to exist to you? Does it seem to exist there objectively? Does it in fact exist like that? Or is it something simply created and labelled by the conceptual mind on the basis of a collection of letters? Now pick a letter from that word. How does that letter appear to exist? Objectively, there? Is that how it exists? Or is that something simply created and labelled by the conceptual mind on the basis of a stream of black colour? Is that the same with everything else on the board? Have that experience when I'm looking at a word and it seems like, yeah, there's a word there, and then you just look at it and suddenly it's sort of like, what is that? I mean, what is that? I mean, it's just some, I mean, it goes down off on one level, it's like, I can see there's a collection of letters there, but it's sort of like, what is that? And then if I keep looking, it's just like some squiggly black colour. I go, what is that? And it really sort of, you can really see how we are creating our reality. In fact, it's very interesting, there's a term for that, but I forgot what it is. How do we know anything? Like, how do we know that's a cup? and it's through double negation. We know that as a cup through the fact that it's not a non-cup. That's how we know everything. Does anyone know the term for that? There's a word for that. I can't remember. There's a word in English. I can't. I don't remember, but it's very interesting actually. Sorry?
Mathematics is proof by contradiction.
No, but there's one word. There's a term.
Epistemology?
I can't remember now, but it's very interesting because that's actually how we know things. We know that's a cup because it's not a non-cup. Very interesting. Because that, I think, really helps the idea of things being merely labelled. Like, for example, maybe a simple example is, let's say a mother's trying to teach a very young child to understand things, and they've got like a pet cat, and so the mother points to the cat and goes, cat, cat, and the young baby sort of sees that and goes, okay, cat, thing, 4 things sticking down. And then the baby sees a table, goes, cat, cat. Mother goes, no, table, table, table. Then the baby refines,